Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us here on a new session here on the Shift Network Sound Healing Summit. Always appreciate having you with us. Our special guest coming up this time around is Phyllis Ann Douglas. Phyllis Ann Douglas weaves 25 plus years of experience in alternative healing, sound therapy, and instrumental and vocal music. She is a woman of knowledge in the Toltec tradition of shamanism and magic, who offers integrated sessions, performances, workshops, and spiritual retreats that empower, revitalize, and transform lives. In the past few years, her work is focused on liberating the spirit of women seeking to rise up in their spiritual truth, gifts, and personal power. Phyllis, welcome.
Hi, I'm so happy to be here with you today.
Yeah, happy to see you. And we could perhaps add as a footnote to that bio and co-host of the 2021 and 2022 Sound Healing Summit. So we've been operating in parallel throughout this event. So good to see you face to face.
Thank you.
So yeah, let's just get right into it. There's a lot of profound dimensions to your work and offerings, but a major current relates to the sacred use of voice. So to get us rolling, tell us a bit about the influences and inspirations that guided you to the type of voice work that you do now.
Well, I grew up in a family where my father was actually really into classical and jazz music. So I was listening to that from probably the moment I was born. And I sang in church as well. So, I hear these stories about when I was a child and I would just bust out in song, and they thought it was really funny, and they really didn't know what it was I was singing either. But in later years, what I understood was that what I was doing was really soothing my soul. When there was ever any anxiety or anything that was happening, I would find that I would either sing or I would sing and move. And so, in later capacity, I understood what that was about. But I have always sung, and that has always soothed me or helped me both, physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, energetically. And in later years, then, because I should state one of the things that I'm an intuitive. I'm an inseer. I'm a seer. I have been since I was a little girl. And so I have always been surrounded by beings. And when I got a little bit older, I understood them to be angels. So I have been working with angels who have been my primary teachers and guides and so forth. They've even saved my life a few times. And so I understood in later years that my work, my reason, my purpose for being in this life was to be able to uplevel the level of communion I had with infinite source and the angels, and to impart teachings and so forth to other people. So it's been like this gradual flow through my life to get to this point. And as far as using my voice for healing others, it was several years ago because I am a massage therapist and I do myofascial release. So I was working with a client and I just heard, "You're going to sing to your client." And I thought, okay. So I just leaned down and I whispered in my client's ear and I said, "Well, apparently I'm going to sing to you." And she's like, "Oh, okay." And so that's when I first started kind of toning and singing and discovering that it had a profound and transformative effect on my clients. And it really has progressed from that point.
Yeah, it's literally a calling or a natural gift and inspiration from childhood. But that's interesting how you heard that angelic voice to guide you to sing. It wasn't a conscious creation or fabrication. It was a divine inspiration.
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah. So now one term to get maybe more specific aspect of what you do. You use the term the language of light. What do you mean by that, and how is that practice delivered?
Well, it's interesting. The When you mention the language of light, it can mean a number of things to many people. When I and the angels of the Elohim speak of the language of light, it is your language. It is your higher language. It is your connection to the higher realms, to infinite source, all of which is you. And so everyone has that propensity to kind of go inward and listen for, sometimes people say it's the small, still voice of God, right? But it is really your voice. And sound acts as an instrument of divining, of distinguishing functional holding patterns versus anatomical structural holding patterns. We can feel, since everything is energy, we can feel how we feel. We can sense that we are having imbalances, distortions, challenges, and so forth. We all have that innate ability to tune in and tap in to our body consciousness, our body intelligence. And a lot of people, if your mind can't take part in that, right? It is just really allowing yourself to clear your mind and listen. And our physical bodies speak eloquently when we listen. So when we have pain or anything, pain and inflammation and so forth, that is the sign, that's the sign that our body's speaking to us. Our body is telling us that there's a challenge, there's something happening, right? So that's really the first call of port. So the ship can take off from there as you're kind of trying to figure out what it is. But when we feel pain, we begin listening because we feel pain and it's causing us not to be able to do something, right? But we'd like to tell you that the body's been speaking all along. That's just its last ditch effort to tell you that you have not been listening. And there's a challenge here. So it begins to speak more and more loudly, right? Until you listen. So for me, the language of light is really my higher consciousness, because we are all individuations of infinite source having a physical experience. We are not this body. This is simply our vehicle of expression on this physical plane. And so when we look at like awakening or ascension, right? I hate those words, but there really aren't any other words. It's really about becoming. And so when you can tap into that expression of your own language of your light, you can begin to peel away and release all of those things that are not in alignment with who you truly are. So when I look at the human form, I see you as a composition of beautiful music, and being able to tap into and hear those discordant segments of that composition, and then use my voice to be able to elevate or release or what have you. I'm not the healer, you are the healer. So really my work, and when I'm working with myself, when I'm working with my language of light, the angels actually call the light of God, basically the light language of God, or the living language of God. And when we can tap into that, we can begin to speak back. We can begin to be in communion and conversation with our physical bodies.
So now when you're channeling the language of light, if I understood you correctly, you're not performing it per se, you're sort of tapping into the energetic essence of the person or group perhaps that you're working with, and then you become an instrument that this voice and energetic sounds
Exactly.
flow through.
Exactly. I am a direct conduit for the consciousness of the Elohim. So that's who I work with. But, we all have guides and loved ones that have crossed over and all of that, whatever it is that you work with. You may have different allies or power animals, shamanically speaking. It's really all the same thing. You're tapping into that higher consciousness that is serving as a guide for you. And so I'm really a facilitator. Whether I'm working on myself, I might be facilitating my own healing, or I am facilitating the healing and transformation of another person. But I'm tapping into their energy, but I can see the energy as well, which is helpful. Uh, so I can tap into another person's energy, and what it is I'm not choosing the tone or the note or the word, so to speak, in the language of light that's coming through. When we are talking about the language of light, it is frequency, resonance, vibration. And when it comes through with our own capacities, then we can translate it in some way that we can actually communicate it to another person. The way that we translate it is going to be different for everyone. And there are different levels or plateaus that you can reach in working with the higher realms and tapping into the language of light.
And what comes through, as opposed to like non-verbal vocal toning, what comes through is it's articulated and sounds like a language, and there's words and phonemes to it, but it may not necessarily have a literal meaning, but there's an energetic transmission that happens. Is that fair as a simple?
It's a little bit of both. There actually is a translatable meaning, but in our human consciousness can't necessarily understand what that is. So I always kind of laugh because, well, so if I were to demonstrate and say, you are a loving, peaceful, and beautiful being, that is what you hear in the English language. So, Alec, if I were to say that in light language, Gutierrezam, Pataru Utrasagiri, and do Trasapakuya Barutruinde, Kesatiera, Nudu Chasamakuntrasa, Ereku Utrumbo, Utrasiere, Casambutra. I said the same thing, but you can feel and interpret the light language through the heart center, through your own expression of your soul. So many times when I speak light language, people say, I understood exactly what you said, but they've never heard light language before. And there's like an understanding, there's a feeling because it's working with your energy. It doesn't need to be translated or dictated in any way, shape, or form. It's understood on a soul level. So it's really about listening and listening with all of your being. It's not about listening with your ears and allowing the brain to help you interpret what is being said.
I love that. And it's still making the analogy to like non-verbal vocal toning as a technique that just gets right to the energetic and emotional heart of things, bypassing the whole layer of the who, what, when, and where story, which you can address after the experiential work. But I love that approach. But now, just still curious, in your process, in addition to your natural intuitive gifts, do you have any special rituals or techniques that help you get into that space?
Well, it's not so much anymore. It's when we're looking, and okay, I could preface this by saying that I have been on a spiritual journey for a very long time. And so I have gotten to the point now that I am that. And so there really isn't any type of preparation or ritual that I need to undertake in order to reach a certain space, right? Or to actually bring the angels in and through me any longer. They are always here. It's always a part of me. But Originally, it would be more so about, going into meditation and reaching a meditative state. And then, holding that intention that this is what is going to happen. This is what I'm going to do. This is what I've just prepared to do. Right? So right now, there's no need for me to do that. Like I can feel them all around and they're raring to go.
Nice one. I love it. But so I guess the root of that question was leading to the next tier here of like, do you feel that this is a type of practice that anyone can tap into and utilize? And if so, like, what are the first steps that people could take to begin to tune into this sort of communication and presence?
The first key is to listen. Many people do not listen to themselves. And I consider this to be self-care, especially for healer types. They're always doing what they do for someone else, but they're not necessarily practicing what it is that they preach or teach, um, or using those tools to help themselves. That's just kind of the nature of the work often. And so it really comes down to our awakening level of consciousness that we are not this, right? There's so much more here. So when you're looking at your physical body, we are all energy. Everything is energy. Everything is interconnected. So this physical body is just energy compressed into matter to form this beautiful physical body, which you're residing within. And so when we think that everything is energy, everything has a sound, everything has a vibration, everything has a resonance, yes, that makes me, you, or, this piece of paper, a piece of paper, or a door. It is sound, it is vibration, it is resonance, it is frequency, which means you can hear it and you can feel it. So the first thing is listening in and feeling into self to see what it is that you hear. And the first thing, we can hear the beating heart. We can feel our pulse, right? Those are ways that the body expresses itself as well. There are fluids circulating through our body. And every aspect of our body, every organ has a frequency, has its own sound. Our heart has a heart frequency because it's a heart. Our liver has a liver frequency because it's a liver. And when we talk about the physical body being this beautiful composition of instruments playing this music together, right, in a higher capacity, then you begin to understand what's not quite working with something else. We have a stomach ache, so the frequency of our stomach is off in some way, shape, or form. It's not resonating at its full capacity with the other organs. Something's challenged, something's not working properly. And so we can tap into that and find that sound. And so when I start with people with tapping into that and with finding their own language of light, which exists, everybody has that capacity. It exists as and through you, as and through you as infinite source, as God, or whatever you want to call God for you. It exists within you and you are it. So with that level of empowerment, it's like, oh, wow, okay. I'm connected because I am connected. Then you can kind of take a dive. And so I talk about like the finding your heart tone first. What is your key tone? And I'll have people just, bring them into a meditative state and have them drop into their heart and just simply ask, without thinking about it, what is the tone that's coming forward? What is it that you hear? And I've never had anyone not hear something, their tone. And when you begin to just tone that and make that sound, you begin to connect even more deeply. And the more deeply you connect, then the more you begin to receive.
And the way this unfolds could vary a lot from person to person, because you note the Elohim is one of your sources of inspiration and information and energy, but You mentioned it could be, for various people, they could conceive of a spirit guide or some kind of ally or a higher self, many different metaphors and different types of presences. Is that fair as a simple overview?
Yes, a lot of people don't like to hear this, but when you are tapping into higher consciousness, because we're all interconnected, any higher consciousness, you're tapping into you because it's all interconnected. So when you begin this, you're tapping into your higher self, which is in connection, communion, tuned in, tapped in, plugged in with infinite source and unlimited possibility, right? The only reason we ever have a challenge is our own mind, our own challenges. You may have different circumstances that have happened in your life, old patterns of belief and so forth that are keeping you from understanding the true immensity and power that you hold and understanding your true nature of being. And so when we talk about awakening or ascension, we are talking about the release, that a snake, the shedding of the skin each time and the newness. We are shedding all that we believed ourselves to believe, we believed ourselves to be, and beginning to open up to that higher light of who we truly are, and to understand that we are divine beings. We are creators of our own life.
And I think you just hinted at it without using the term. I've also saw in your writings you speak of the art of undoing. So that is often a first step to unwind those frequencies and patterns and constructs that are maybe holding people stuck, to use one metaphor.
Yeah, and that is the key to my work. The angels brought that forward a couple years ago, and they're like, what we're teaching you and what you're going through, because everything that I teach, I have gone through, okay, is the art of the undoing. We have to undo the old paradigm. We have to undo the old patterns and the old beliefs that were just created to assist us, to guide us in doing whatever it is that we thought we were meant to do. And I look back at things, I had to go through like a whole gamut of releases, not just for myself, but all through my ancestry, to be able to become the person that I am now, because we aren't separate from our ancestors. We carry that energy. We also carry the gifts. And so, shamanically speaking, when we talk about healing ourselves, it's not just us. When we do something to heal or transform ourselves, we're healing and transforming those within our circle. But shamanically speaking, we speak like 7 generations back and 7 generations forward.
Mm.
And when I began to heal myself and be on this journey, I noticed changes in the people around me, my family members, my husband, my daughter, right? Because I was releasing for them as well. So it's the undoing of all whom we thought we were, so that we are creating space. The angels always show me this, what they call a holy sepulcher. We're a holy sepulcher. From about the neck up, if you think like a goblet, there's this cup. And then the physical body is the stem, and the feet that are planted or rooted into the earth is the base of the goblet. And so we're born and the goblet begins to fill. And as we become more conscious, right, then the light is coming down and filling the goblet, and it's applying pressure to what's already there, which has to go somewhere, right? And so that pressure of our awakening to our truth, that pressure of our remembrance, is beginning then to create a compression where something needs to happen. We need to let go. We need to release. And as soon as we create space, more light comes in. As soon as we create more space, more light comes in. And that is the process of the undoing.
Thank you. So we can go on and on talking about the theories of it and the metaphors and descriptions, but this seems a good point to perhaps just share some of the sounds and the energies that you work with. Would you like to do a little demonstration of the type of language of light and other sound work that you do?
Sure. And when I'm going to present what's a transmission, essentially. And within the transmission, for me, the sound is coming through but the energy is also coming through and being transmitted. And there are aspects of symbols that happen, sacred geometry that I began to see that come through with my voice. And I'll be happy to, what I would, to present this to you. What I would suggest is that you not watch what I'm doing, but that you relax back, sit back, lie down, keep your eyes closed, and allow yourself then to just simply go inward and listen with all of your being. Taking a deep breath in and out. And another deep breath in and out. Feel the physical sensations around your body as you listen, absorb, and immerse yourself in the sound. Bakere sinjano mototrem. Kere santotrem motroi mine koyo motron. Higere sirium. Ongoyo tre. Notro soyo motrere. Kere se notro soyo no. Nere se notro soyo motrero. Hongoere hongoyore siro. Nero nero. Hungary singiri hong, Hungary singiri hong, Hungary singiri hong, Hungary singiri hong, Mairia hong, Hungary sirere hong, Hungary sirege hong, Gundre sare hong, Hungary sirere hong, Hungary, 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 Hungary hong. Girisharia, Hungoria inga, Giresire Mondruera, Mosirian, Sirian, 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 Gurium Montrian, Hungarian. Here su tromberia, here su tromberia, here su tromberia, here Siriam Motruiriam, Iriam Hong. Geria Shakira, Iria Shakira, Hungary, Samundra, Irium, Mumbarere, Hungary, Syria, Hungary, Singaria, Indirism, Hungary, Syrium, Hungary, Syrium, Hungary, Quirian, Montara, Hungary, Syria, Motruia, Hungary, Singaria, Hungary, Syria, Hungary, Syria, Hungary, Hungary, Syria, Hungary, Sunkut, 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 Hungary, Singere, Hungary, Singere, Hungary, Singere, Ungere mi mini angie sire ma kungeria angere singere butiara bakoira motrung ero cotreo sotto ciamatero tutto tutto sochero tutto ungere motige ninga mundra sire che ungere motire siamaturi la geri kine munje ham che sire sa ciccano tutto sera motero un poco di cera sotto la yama patoia e nere sapeo tutto yama torsoia Gire Suryam Hangarere Suye Om Mingire Sure Hangarere Sure Om Derere Sure Hang Derere Sure Om Derere Sure Hang Derere Sure Om Pire che siamo tre sacciare che amamo cuiere sian angere miam undra saria che pa contra seriam anguia monderia me che erano cuia andere si cerichiam muria kiniam cuia chachaka che indiere enim unju underiam ungere siriara ungere siriara ungere siriara angere suju mo nyanya nyanya kere nyanya nyanya kere unju yere ka aria dunjere ka aria unguheria unguheria hungeria ungeria ungeria hungeria ungeria ungeria hung se kuya pasyon. Atiere ka sa utoyera pukusha tiera. Atiera ka aru uyera sam. Hirisi kira sachara. Hirisi chikuyera sam. Hamba shara kere. Hamba shara kere. Hamberegu. Om. The transmission is complete.
Well, thank you for that beautiful gift. And now the challenge to shift frequencies back into being linearly verbal. Always a challenge for me, even under the best of circumstances. But I guess I'm not analyze it at all and just let the enchantingly divine resonance of that peace and sharing just continue. Unless there's something you would like to say about it, that is.
I would add, I think that when you are listening, we want to be able to really listen and listen deeply. So when you go maybe back to listen to this again, or when you're thinking about having just listened to the transmission, you can begin to understand that I'm tapping into something where there's more than just it's more than one just thing. It is higher consciousness, but it is this, it's not just one being that's coming through. It's for me, it's the Elohim, it's my ancestors, it's my loved ones, it's my guides that are all coming in to create with me, to work with me. And you could hear like the male and the female voices, weaving in. So for me, it's really like this weaving of this beautiful transmission, this composition that is meant to heal or transform or to elevate, whatever the theme might be. This was just more general for people to receive exactly what it is that they are meant to receive. But it was an opening for people through the higher chakras to be able to bring in a higher level of communion with spirit.
And back to the theme that we were talking about a few minutes ago, how people can tap into this and really bring it in as a tool in their own lives. The way you started that could be also seen as a little mini instructional, at first tapping in, centering on the breath, tuning into a body feeling, and then allowing that to come through as a voice, maybe as a simple tone at first, and then as a vocalization, which could be like very simple. It doesn't have to be, real technical singing, but just let it
Yeah,
flow
no,
forth.
it is very simple. When you tap into that tone, if a sound comes to you, recognize that that is the sound that you're working with right now. And what you do then is you just sound it. I listen to my heart and I hear, "Ooh," and I can then understand, right now it's pretty clear, but I would be able to feel like if I had sadness or anxiety, or that creates a restriction or a distortion to the frequency. And you can really tell. So when you find your own pure heart tone and you begin to use that and sound that into different areas of your body, there's a level of discernment that you'll receive, a sense that, oh, I need to work here. There's a pain, there's a tension. And if you don't hear anything, make something up. You just, if my shoulder hurts, and I'll just be like, oh, and I'll find that sound. It'll start to evolve, it'll start to turn into something. And before you know it, your shoulder's like, oh yeah, thanks. Whatever you're working on.
Yeah, that was a good tip too, because also to relate it back to the vocal toning world, just honor what comes out without judgment or inhibition, because what comes out at first on that theme of like the art of undoing, it might be like, something like a releasing, groaning sort of tone. And if you let it flow, eventually the tone will clear out. Does that sound fair as a beginning technique?
That is exactly it. That is perfect because if you're willing to just make the sound, whatever comes up, even if you just imagine it, make it up, it'll begin to evolve and you'll begin to feel it and you'll begin to move with it.
Yeah, I'm in that camp. Ultimately, that is the higher power rather than worrying about what is the correct frequency for X, Y, or Z. Just really tapping into your body wisdom and letting it sound. That's always truth, right?
Yeah, and you did say, what the key thing is no judgment because that judgment creates a barrier, creates a boundary, a hurdle. Can't say that enough, different ways. um, so no judgment, and you also have to kind of adopt the need not to know. That's also a hurdle. That's also a boundary. When we need to know something, we tend to like leap to the opposite end of the process, and then it never happens, whatever it is we're trying to accomplish. So, really, the last thing I would leave you with you about that is just approaching it with childlike wonder and imagination and creativity as well. Work with whatever it is that's coming through and whatever way you can communicate with it in the moment. And the more that you do this, the easier it gets to be able to do it again.
That's a great tip too, the wisdom of the child, because so I've heard that over the years too, that question, like, how do we get children into this type of work? And I often think there's maybe more to be learned from children who are in that stage where they're just freely playing and discovering their voice before these various inhibitions come in. So that's a great space to tap into too as a technique. Be like the little child and make a joyful noise unto the Lord. So thank you. See how we could go on that, but we're nearing our final moments here. But so if someone would like to find out more about you and your work, where's the best place to go?
The best place is to my website, which is Phyllis Douglas with two S's .com. And I do private and group sessions, retreats, workshops, teach classes and things. I've got a lot of things that are coming up that I'm working with, so I don't have dates. But if you go to my website and you join my subscription, then you'll receive the calendar of events and things that are going on. I'm doing a lot of things online. I do private sessions online. So kind of what I did today, I do privately with people. We do a little bit of a, with the beginning of the session, we do a little bit of an intake about what your challenges are, what your goals are, what it is that you want to achieve. And then the angels come in and I do just what I just did. We do a prescriptive and encoded transmission for you. And it's recorded. And then I email that to you along with an alchemical symbol that you can frame and hang. So there's many, many different ways that I work with people.
And I noticed that you also construct various sort of sacred alchemical ritual tools that people can order. I'd like to say a little bit about that too.
Sure. That came in a couple of years ago. I just kept having this vision of like a wand or something. I was like, and they do that. They keep dropping little hints. And so eventually it's like you're going to, well, I actually wasn't listening to the hints. And I had gotten the same day, I had this dream about creating this Lemurian healing rod. And the very next day, this gentleman that lives in Australia messaged me on Facebook saying he had a dream about a Lemurian healing tool and heard my name. And so that's literally how it all started. So now the Elohim kind of downloads me with these different schematics, as it were, of tools to create out of resonant copper and stone, and then they activate them and so forth. So it's going very well. Actually, it's alchemical sacreds plural.com, alchemicalsacreds.com.
Right on, and very beautiful pieces from what I've seen. So you can find their way to your website for more information about those implements. And perhaps last, but maybe not least, I also, because this relates to your theme about working with women and various aspects of female empowerment, I see you also collaborate with a group called the Sonic Divas. Is that group still active?
Yes, the Sonic Devas. We just had a performance, I think it was March. And we'll probably be having something in the fall. But what it is it's a group of beautiful women who are all sound healers, sound therapists that come together with a theme. And we write some of our own music, and it's like a girl band, but but with sound healing. And so yeah, you can if you join my newsletter as well, I always have those dates, upcoming dates that are coming up in the future, and you can come
Hey,
join us. Yeah.
hey, great stuff. And apologies for the mispronunciation. Sonic Devas, Sonic Divas. Divas are different, but nothing wrong with divas. We all love Adele and performance singers, so bless them. Yeah, on that note, blessings. Well, once again, Phyllis, thank you for blessing us today with your presence and your information and the beautiful peace and transmission that you shared. That was very special. So thank you for all that.
Thank you, and thank you, everyone.
Yes, thank you, everyone. Thank you to the Shift Network, and thank you for listening and being here. And you are always appreciated. And we invite you to come on back because there's more to come here on the Shift Network Sound Healing Summit. We'll see you next time.